Serhei,
Sviatlana, welcome to our studio in Warsaw. Serhei, let's start with you. When you were released, what was your first request?
Простое человеческое желание.
I really love coffee, and the first thing I asked for was a cup of coffee.
And what else did you want?
I asked for my wife's phone number. That was the first thing I asked for. When they brought me my coffee, I asked them, "Do you have my wife's number?" And they started looking for it. They found a phone and handed it to me, and that was it. I was overcome with emotion till the very end.
How did you find out that you were being released? Who told you?
I found out that I was free when American diplomats opened the door to our bus and told me I had been released. We were sitting with bags on our heads. There were 14 of us. The diplomat addressed us in English and said that everything is fine. You're under the protection of the United States. You're free. You'll be given water, cookies, candy, and anyone who needs medical care will receive it. But the fact that we were being driven to a place where we'd be released was already clear in prison when they told me that I had 2 minutes to gather all my belongings. I packed everything. They took me to the gathering point, they checked everything and put a bag over my head again. It was semi-transparent. They put 4 of us into an unmarked car, 2 on each side, face down, and drove us to another city. On the way, I realized they were taking us to Minsk, and I understood that it was happening. They'd either try to force me to agree to some form of cooperation, or they'd really release me. Because KGB agents had visited me before, saying that some deal was being prepared, some exchange that involved me.
Did they tell you this a few times?
The first time was the assistant prosecutor back in August 2024. He said that I could be released soon if I wrote a petition for pardon. He tried to persuade me.
So almost a year ago.
Yes, that was the first time. Then on January 14th, some other people came to me, KGB officers. They said, "At least write that you don't object to being deported. You don't need to ask for pardon anymore. Just write that you don't have anything against us expelling a Belarusian citizen." That was about 6 months ago. So it was all prepared in advance. And it really happened when Donald Trump specifically said that a person with this surname had to be on the list. That set the whole process in motion.
Sviatlana, a question for you. You were here with us in the studio last time, back in April, and you were holding a black and white photograph of your husband. And back then you had a completely different expression. Today I see a smile on your face, and it's very pleasant to see. When did you find out that Serhei was free? How did you feel? Did you believe it?
I had always kept hope alive, but for some reason we all thought that Siarhei would be one of the last to be released, because he is one of Lukashenko's biggest enemies. And when the phone rang and I heard my husband's voice, "My love, I'm free," that was of course a moment of enormous joy. I realized that we would see him soon, that our children would be able to hug their father, whom they hadn't seen in 5 years. And of course, the whole day was just filled with tension. And you know, I always carried around a folder with Siarhei's picture so that he would inspire me. It was my talisman. His release is my personal joy. And for many people, Siarhei is a great inspiration. But what needs to be understood is that there are still 1,000 political prisoners in Belarusian prisons. And I am very grateful to Siarhei that despite being physically, emotionally, and morally exhausted, he immediately took up the struggle again. He understands that we need to get those people out of there. He has been through hell. And today, I have on my folder a picture of Andrzej Poczobut, who is one of the 1,000 political prisoners in Belarus. Every one of them has a unique story, and every one of our heroes who is in prison must be released. And for that, we must fight together, as Belarusians and our democratic partners.
Каждый должен быть выпущен, и за это мы должны бороться как белорусы, так и наши демократические партнеры.
Serhei, what gave you hope in the darkest moments?
Faith that everything would end well. And when I learned about all the international support that my wife was advocating for my release and for the release of other political prisoners, when I learned what European and American diplomats were doing directly to secure our release, and what Polish diplomats were doing, I thanked President Duda and Foreign Minister Sikorski. And I hope I'll get the opportunity to thank the Prime Minister Donald Tusk personally. I know what they did for me. And the news I was receiving was so inspiring. They were so supportive. Meanwhile, in prison, I was being told, nobody knows you, nobody remembers you, you're not receiving any letters because nobody's writing to you. But I had been in this prison before, and I received up to 300 letters a day. And here I've been sitting for 2.5 years, and not one letter. They said they've forgotten about you, and they would repeat the same thing to everyone else. They would say, you're worthless, your people on the outside are bad, they're stealing money, they're not doing anything for you.
So they were pressuring you psychologically?
Yes, they pressured me every day. They'd say things like, you're never getting out of here. In Belarus, they add time to your sentence as a form of punishment. At first, they gave me 18 years, and they added another 18 months for what they called bad behavior.
What kind of bad behavior were they referring to?
For example, they'd come into my cell and say, it's not clean enough here. You haven't been cleaning your cell. And they would take a rag, wipe a place on the wall where the paint was peeling, and say he didn't clean this part.
And they added more prison time?
Yes, at first they would add 15 days, but that's one thing. As a prisoner, you also face what's called administrative punishment, which can be the basis for a criminal indictment under Article 411, and that gets you another 18 to 24 months tacked onto your sentence. They told me there would be many extensions like that I would never get out. And they say that to everyone, but these prison guards don't get to make that decision. That's up to the dictator. He's the only one who decides. And then he decided that in order to start some sort of dialogue with the Americans, he could release Tsikhanouski too. But he made a mistake again. He was wrong. Because I did not need to be put in jail. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I've committed no crimes. It was a mistake. They put me in jail 3 times, and now they've released me 3 times. And the more they imprison me and release me, the more they make me popular and famous. They make me a martyr, a hero, and people believe in me, and people are ready to follow me. And he releases a person who can lead Belarusians. This regime is crazy. Its time is up.
Serhei, at the press conference in Lithuania, you said that your wife, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, remains the leader of the opposition and that you are not going to claim any role. Now, what's behind that decision and how do you see your future?
Sviatlana is perfectly suited for diplomatic work in our family. She's calmer. Her English is much better than mine. I spent the last few years in prison studying English intensively, but my listening skills aren't great. Although I do read books in English now.
Did they give you books there?
Books were the only thing that they gave me. That saved me. I traveled together with the heroes of those books. If it weren't for the books, I don't know what I would think about. The thing is that I see my future activity in bringing Belarusians together and pulling them forward. I am the fire, the engine, the locomotive. Sviatlana and her diplomatic work is something else. It's very important. If not for her work, I wouldn't be alive today. If it were possible to kill me without any consequences, that would have happened already. I wouldn't be here anymore. The regime doesn't need more protests and sanctions from the international community. That's why he released me. And what about the more than 1,000 people whose names we don't know? Who will say a word for them? Who will speak up for them? We don't even know many of their names. We don't know these people, and they're being beaten in prison.
Sviatlana, my last question to you. Do you believe that real change in Belarus could happen in the near future?
Change is absolutely possible, and our task is to make sure that it happens soon. The path to change can be very short or quite long, as it was with Poland's solidarity movement. You believed, you marched, you worked, united, and now look where you are. You're a democratic, sovereign country. So our movement is united, we're coordinated. We work with Belarusians both inside the country and abroad. And we have formalized our relations with the democratic world. We see these attempts to free political prisoners. They've been successful. Here, we are, of course, very grateful to President Trump and the American administration for not losing sight of Belarus. And I believe in Belarusians. For 5 years, every day, people have worked together and continued to fight, despite repression, despite how hard it is. People are not giving up. That inspires me a lot. And we're seeing new heroes, people everyone loves.
Thank you, Sergei and Sviatlana Tsikhanouski, for not giving up and for being here with us today, sitting in our Warsaw studio here at TVP World and talking with us. Thank you so much.
And that's all for this edition here with this very special interview with Sergei and Sviatlana Tsikhanouskis. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.